Yep, are we recording? Hey authors, how's it going? It's been a while since I made a video. I think my last video was last month, breaking down everything about sci-fi. For the past 1 month or so, there's been a couple of headaches, couple of migraines, and I've been struggling with that. So I decided to just take a short break and focus on getting my health back on check. So now that I'm feeling a lot better, I think it's worth it to make another video. Now, this video is unscripted. I have not made a script, an on the spot video in my car because I am somewhere else. I'm not at home, and I carried my camera along with me because I knew I'd have some time with me. That's why I'm here making a video. So, let's talk about what the differences are with traditional publishing and indie publishing. An acquaintance sent me a message asking me what are the pros and cons of the exact same question. If there's a new author, if you've written a book for the first time, it can be a little challenging to choose which one is best, traditional publishing or independent publishing. I think the one single factor that is very important when you consider traditional publishing or independent publishing is the factor of time. If you go through the route of traditional publishing, you need to be very certain you're not going to get your book out to readers' hands in 6 months or 1 year. Sometimes people take years to get a contract or get their book across through traditional publishing, whereas independent publishing is a lot faster. You can come up with an idea for a book, write the book, and publish in a matter of months. The whole process can be that. But with respect to traditional publishing, it can take a long time. So, thing you need to consider is that time factor. Now, the second thing you need to consider is the effort. When you go ahead with traditional publishing, you are actually getting in touch with a set of experts, a set of expert designers, a set of expert editors who can work a lot on your book. But when you go with independent publishing, when you self publish your book, you need to wear many hats at one go. You need to become your own editor, you need to be your own designer, you need to be your own formatter. Everything is all dependent upon you. So that's another consideration you need to take when you consider the differences between traditional publishing and self publishing. One more thing, which is maybe to some people a very important thing, is the rights. When you approach a publisher, like let's say the big five, Penguin Random House, what is happening in a sense is that Penguin Random House is buying the idea for a book from you. So the moment you sign that contract, that book is no longer yours. I mean, they will use your name on the cover, obviously, but it's no longer your book. But if you go ahead with self publishing, that book is actually yours. That lends you a lot of creative control over your idea, over your book, which traditional publishing usually does not have. Maybe some contracts will allow a lot more creative freedom, but the norm is that you don't have a lot of freedom because it is not your book. Now, what is this creative freedom that I'm talking about, you may ask? Well, what do you do with the characters in your book in the sequel? Or if there's ever going to be a sequel? Or what about the adaptation of the book into another medium? A lot of those things are not in your control. Let's take, for example, I can't think of an example right now. The rights of the book. But I can think of an example right now. Martian was a very successful book, traditionally published, which then became a movie. But then also, a famous example called The 50 Shades of Grey was once a Wattpad set of books, which then became self-published. And because of the tremendous popularity of the series, it then became traditionally published after a big publisher approached the author, which then, as you know, became a series of movies with Dakota Johnson. Alright, back to the video. The rights of the book is another thing you need to consider when you're considering traditional publishing or self-publishing. So I think that's it. It's a pretty quick video. When you want to choose which route you want to go through, you need to be aware of the time factor. How fast do you want your book to go out into the hands of readers? Then you also need to consider the effort and the investment, because self-publishing involves a lot of investment upfront, whereas traditional publishing, there is usually not a lot of investment. The other last and final, but definitely not the smallest consideration you have to consider is the rights. When you self publish, you own the rights, but if you traditionally publish with a publisher like Penguin Random House, you don't own the rights. The publisher owns the rights. I think that's it for this video. It's a pretty short video, and I will come back very soon.